Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Now I wasn't planning on making a video today, but I received an email actually of all things, and then it led me down a rabbit hole of trying to look into it elsewhere, and apparently this has been out for a couple of days, even though I really hadn't heard about it at all, or hadn't seen anybody talk about it, so I guess we'll talk about it here briefly in the video. It's kind of in the lead up of announcements leading into the national. I guess these things are kind of getting out. So I'm showing you here the Mike Baker authenticated Instagram page, but I'll actually show you in a couple of different spots where I was able to locate it. And the email itself as well, which was originally what set me down this whole rabbit hole in the first place. So let me share with you a little bit from the email, and then we'll get from there. So here on this, you can see it says PWCC and Mike Baker authenticated, so that's really important to keep that in mind. A new authentication partnership. Mike Baker authenticated, known for his quality, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. The new service provides a professional review and authentication for raw cards that allows individuals to trade ungraded assets with confidence. Raw cards submitted to service are reviewed by the NBA team, and if certified as authentic, are identified by title, serial number, placed in a custom top loader, and sealed with a tamper-proof label. Now, this is a purely authentication services, so they're not actually doing a grade. So for folks that are like, if you remember when we talked about the whole SGC raw card review, this is basically a raw card review, but just authentication. But there is a little bit more to it. If you read beyond that, it says here, each authenticated card also receives a custom condition report. So I think it was treated like a Carfax report, basically. And I'll show you, again, I had to go looking elsewhere to see if I could validate it, aside from the email and obviously the Instagram post. But it shows that all cards will be eligible to be stored in the PWCC vault and sold in the weekly auction, premier auction, and fixed price marketplace, which is obvious since PWCC is working on all these different partnerships for submitting things and then putting it in the vault. I get that part. So basically, they're giving you a Carfax report and authentication, strictly authentication. So let me scroll down a little bit more. So it is $6 per card, and you can see the little image of the custom top loader with the tamper-proof sticker, blah blah blah. So apparently they're authenticated, titled, and secured in that top loader with the tamper-proof seal, and you receive a custom condition report with a custom heat map detailing all condition defects. So they're apparently highlighting which sections of the card have some defects, even though they're not giving you a technical grade. High-res photos and video, which is similar, which is uploaded to the NBA database. So interesting. And you can sell or store with PWCC, which again goes into the partnership with PWCC. And they're launching this at the National. So apparently, in those two various booths, you can submit these cards for this kind of review. Basically, a raw card review, but with authentication, and you can then submit it into PWCC for sale by that. And again, you do receive a condition, kind of a Carfax report. Same information here as well, and a better picture of the actual little top loader itself. A little bit of information about that. Here's the heat map piece. So I'll include links to this here as far as the Instagram post is concerned, but I'm also going to include a link to this. So here is an article from Sports Collectors Digest. So believe it or not, they're still around, but this is the digital version of Sports Collectors Digest. And basically, inside of this one, they actually talk about, and this is what kind of threw me off, is that this article is from July the 22nd. So I hadn't heard about this at all, to be honest with you. And I'll try to corroborate it in one or two other places if I can. We're going to see. But as far as I can tell, this kind of backs up and validates a lot of the information that I just gave you from that other one. It talks about, Mike Baker. It talks about the service. It talks about being $6 per card. And here's where they mention a custom card fax report. Get it? Detailing to me for wear and manufacturing defects. Whatever. At the end of the day, the use cases on something like this are going to be very specific and very limited. But for folks that have always said that they do like the idea of just having an authentication only service, at $6 per card, this is extremely competitive as far as the raw card review is concerned. Also, at the same time, if the goal is just to confirm something as authentic for somebody that might be on the fence about doing a transaction, this is viable again. And at $6 per card, it's not too crazy. Another component of it that I would consider as well, in all honesty, is this does not preclude you from then submitting to a third-party grader anyway. Part of the appeal of the whole SGC raw card review was that you could submit it and then you get a discount as far as submitting the card. But you paid $25 initially, and then you get a discount on the grading itself, which would be another $18, so it'd be about $43. Well, in this case, if you just wanted the authentication first, you wanted to make sure it was good, well, then you do it. And it's for $6 per card, and then you could still take it to like an SGC for $25 per card and just have them, go through the regular encapsulation and basically grading like normal. So at that point, it would be $31. So that would be cheaper if the goal initially was just to confirm authenticity before you wanted to proceed. Again, you could just submit it to third-party grade in the first place, but again, I can understand if the goal is just to be able to do it on site and have that. Now, the one part I'm not sure about, and this is what I'm curious about, it says there'll be great authenticating cards at the National for $6 per card. I'm assuming that is on site. That's not 100% clear, not 100% in terms of that. But that is the impression that I get on this. And it just kind of surprised me that obviously it had at least been out. Again, people don't really read Sports Collectors Digest anymore. It's not really in the zeitgeist of the hobby like it once was, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. And then getting the email with the PWCC side of it, and then seeing the post from the Instagram page. So I'm curious. I'm not really reporting this because, again, first I've heard of it just today, and I tried looking into it a little bit. I'm going to include a link to this in the description, but a curiosity, just kind of a question for everybody. Is an authentication only service, even at $6 per card, is that something that would be interesting as far as, that you think might be interesting at the National? This is kind of from a price point perspective, it makes a lot more sense for someone who maybe is looking at some vintage, ungraded raw cards, and their main concern is just making sure it hasn't been messed with. Well, then this would certainly be a much more straightforward one. Do you trust Mike Baker authentication? That's a different question. But at the same time, for $6 per card, it is a very economical option. And the ability then to transfer it directly into PWCC, into their vaulting, and then maybe able to sell it or basically transact on it like usual, could be potentially very appealing. It's just another one in a PWCC line of various partnerships they're starting to establish, which is kind of very interesting. Obviously, a series of them leading into the National, and then of course it leads you to kind of question, because we had the Beckett one as well. How many more of these partnerships are we going to see here leading into the National and at the National? That's kind of the question that I would have as far as that's concerned. But overall, is this something, if you are kind of more of a vintage collector who doesn't necessarily care about encapsulating the cards, but maybe you went to the National, you wanted to make sure a card was good, would a service like this be interesting to you at $6 per card? Would it be something that would make sense to you? Or this would be like a pre-screening for you to maybe potentially just send it in to get it encapsulated with any of the third-party grader that you like anyway. So just some questions that I kind of leave open-ended. Just kind of an interesting out-of-the-blue thing that I received in an email. So I assume other folks are going to start receiving that from PWCC as well. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Anyway, just open any thoughts or comments you might have on that. More videos coming up on the channel. Live stream on Friday will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the standard. It'll be the National Special. We're not going to be at the National. But nonetheless, we can definitely comment on anything that's been coming out of the National up until that point. And I'll see if there's any other videos coming up here in the rest of the week, or if any other news comes up or anything else that catches my eye. So if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much. We'll catch you in the next one.